championship week. Hopefully y'all are still alive and gearing up for your fantasy championship. If not, you're still watching the videos, thank you. But if you want some action this week, get on the FanDuel, use the code FST2014 to get a little sign-up bonus, same one that you get everywhere else. They're a lot of fun, do some of the daily leagues. Kind of a quiet week for the waiver wire. You know, we do have some injuries, but there's not necessarily anyone out there that you're super excited about except for the Cowboys situation. With DeMarco Murray, a huge question mark week 16. And I will say, I have been saying it all year, he will get hurt, and he's proven me wrong until this point. But now he might not be there when it counts the most. As of now, it looks like Joseph Randle is going to be the guy to pick up. He's the guy I've been telling you to pick up for a long time now, as far as he's the guy to put on your bench with a high upside. But Lance Dunbar is someone you're going to want to pay attention to as well. He probably will be the passing running back for them, so depending on how that game goes with the Colts, Dunbar could actually maybe have more value in PPR leagues. But I think Dunbar and Randle are worth picking up in pretty much any type of league until we know for sure what's going to happen this week. But it does look like Murray is probably going to miss week 16. Andre Williams, got to talk about him, only on about 60% of leagues. Rashad Jennings just can't stay healthy, got injured again week 15. Looks like Williams will probably carry the load week 16, so if he's available, you know, he'll be a decent flex option for you because you know he's at least going to get the touches. I did want to talk about Kieran Williams for Arizona. He hasn't been great, but he's been good. Really tough matchup against Seattle, though, week 16. But again, in terms of just, you know, a lot like Williams, with the other Williams and this Williams, you know they're both going to get the touches out there. So, you know, that's worth something. Even though he doesn't have the best matchup, you know, he is still a safe, probably 6 to 10 point play if you're in deeper leagues. One guy that I think actually needs some serious consideration this week, although I know it's really scary, but every year there's a guy that kind of comes out of nowhere and helps people win their fantasy championships, and that this week, it could be Toby Gerhart. Now, I know that's really scary to say. I know it's a Thursday night game. You don't really know what's going to happen with those. They've been kind of weird this year. But that game actually is interesting to me. I think it could either be 14-9, or I think it could actually be somewhat of a shootout just because the defenses are so bad in that game. I think there could be a decent amount of points. It is a gamble, but I think the Jags will be able to move the ball against Tennessee, and I think vice versa, just because both defenses are pretty bad. Even though the Jags have been playing a little bit better lately, I still think their defense is pretty bad. I do want to talk about the San Francisco running back situation. It's kind of interesting. You know, Frank Gore went out with a concussion. We're not sure about his availability for week 16. Looks like Carlos Hyde might finally be the guy that can break out for them and get a chance to see what that kid can do, and then he gets hurt. So you're definitely going to want to pay attention to this one. It gets pretty ugly past that. It goes down to Bruce Miller and Alfonso Smith are the next two guys in line out there for San Francisco. So it's ugly if both those guys can't play, but if Gore's out but Hyde's in, this makes Hyde interesting. You know, he's only owned, Hyde's not owned in that many leagues at this point, so you're going to want to pick up Hyde if you're desperate for a running back because he could have some value if he's able to get close to 100% and Gore ends up missing the game. Couple wide receivers for you. Dante Moncrief, we've been talking about him a decent amount this year. You know, he's had some ups and downs. He's had some good games. He's had some bad games. T.Y. Hilton's injured. The Colts are looking good. There's no reason for them to rush Hilton back. I don't think Hilton's going to play week 16. And in that game with the Cowboys, that could be a bit of a shootout. So Moncrief gets a few more targets. Obviously, his value goes up. I do like him if T.Y. Hilton ends up missing that game. Jarvis Landry I wanted to talk about just because I feel like he's the better receiver out there in terms of fantasy value. Yes, Wallace did have a big game week 15, but Landry's still been very consistent over the last couple months or so, and he's still only on about 50% of leagues. I don't really understand that. You know, not the best matchup going up against Minnesota, but I do think Miami will be able to move the ball against them, so I don't mind Landry if he's still floating around in your league. One quarterback for you. I know this one's a little bit scary, but RG3. You know, there are some quarterbacks that are underperforming right now, some quarterbacks that are really not helping you out much. If you had Cam Newton, Jay Cutler hasn't been playing well. You might just be looking for a high upside quarterback, and RG3 does still have the upside going up against Philly. I expect Philly to get some pressure on them. I expect Philly to maybe get 4 or 5 sacks. I expect them to get some turnovers, but I also expect it to be somewhat of a high-scoring game, maybe lots of fantasy points to go around. I think, obviously the Phillies D, I think, will score points, but I do think the Redskins will be able to do some things on offense. So RG3, high risk, high reward, but I did want to talk about him. Some defenses for you. Green Bay, I like them going up against Tampa Bay. Green Bay's been up and down this year, but they've had some big games. I like Miami's defense this week going up against Minnesota. Minnesota doesn't have that many weapons on offense that you need to worry about, and Miami's D is pretty solid. And then I like Cleveland going up against Carolina. I think there's a good chance Cam Newton might miss another game. You got to like Cleveland's chances of keeping points off the board against Carolina. So this is our last waiver wire show. We don't mess around with Week 17, and neither should you. It's a waste of time. You're going to end up being mad about all your starters that aren't playing. But we will be in the forums, though, this week and next week. And Brent and I will be back later in the week to do our Fantasy Fix, last one of the season. But like I said, hopefully y'all are still alive, and if you got any questions, post them in the forums.